Yeah, g'day fellas, welcome to this week's Race C lap guide. So it looks like the qualifying car this week is going to be the Mazda. I'd say the model, but I have no idea how to pronounce it. It very quickly got to the top of the leaderboards. It's not a car that I've used ever. All my Mazdas had 0 kilometers on them. So I've had to scramble to learn a little bit about it. We did probably 1 or 2 hot laps in brake balance 1, 2 and 3. 2 feels like the best for me, but as always, play around with your driving style. The other cars worth trying, if you're finding that you are bagging up the rears a bit too quick, is probably the Volkswagen Beetle and the Volkswagen 911. Those are pretty or easier to drive than this was, I think, even though I'm not an expert at either of those cars either. There is a couple of crazy people trying the GTR, so you can go all loco and try that if you want to. But if you're just going for the best outright qualifying time, it looks like this is the car you're looking for. Okay, so let's get into it now. So down into turn 1, braking just after the 100 meter board, maybe the 80, 75 mark-ish. So there you can see it, not too far. So we're going to get down into third as quick as possible, get the car turned in a little bit, then turn in and pick up second, using all the curb, jab on the throttle, wide open for a little bit, up into third before the right-hander. Taking all of the curb, leave about a millimetre of tyre on that. Back over to the left hand side of the road, which will now become the right hand side of the road. That first section, fairly important to use all the curb on all 3 of those. Once again, braking at the 100 metre board here. Yeah, we're going to shift down into third, and then trail brake over onto the exit and use this curb to rotate the rear of the car once again. Now we're trying to run out to that curb. We don't have to on this occasion. I like to cut back over that curb there on the left hand side. So left hand side of the road, left hand tyres on the white line, braking just before the 50 metre, so probably about 60-65. Down to 4th straight away, wait for third until the apex. Once you've collected the apex, third, start picking up the throttle. The earlier the better. Too much will force you out wide on this second apex though. Sound like I'm going to repeat myself again, but we use all this curb here. Track limit's pretty casual. As you can see, the car is on the left hand side of the white line. Using a split second in 4th as my brake marker. If you're struggling a bit, just hold third there. So down into this sharp right-hander, we're picking up first before the apex, and that is to rotate the rear of the car and straight back into second because there's too much wheel spin in first. We did try this left-hander in first and second. It feels like the car carries a little bit better speed in second. Very, very gentle on the throttle. This car has a lot of horsepower and will bag up the rears if you get on the throttle too quickly. Up into third for this short straight that's not really a straight. By the end of this curve, we're really trying to get back to the left-hand side of the road and then braking at that green stuff. So as soon as you see that green stuff on the left-hand side, we're on the brakes again, trying to keep the car on the left. And then it's going to be a quick down change into second. And then we're waiting for first, just as you need to bring the rear around, flick it into first, back up to second for the apex, and then gentle on the throttle until you feel you have all the grip. Then it's straight to wide open throttle. I found this left-hander very, very tricky. We're aiming for about half throttle. As you can see, I couldn't quite make it. So just make sure you do have the throttle open for that left-hander. That really helps you quote-unquote carry the speed. Waiting for the curb to finish here on the right hand side before we get on the brakes. So yeah, maybe a couple of car lengths after that curb. Down into second. Once again, I'm using some curb here to rotate the rear of the car. Just as the car bounces over that, the rear end will shake just a touch. Once again, very, very gentle on the throttle, up into 3. So for those of you that have been watching these a bit, on the left-hand side here in the Group 4 cars, I mentioned that there was no difference between touching that curb and not touching that curb. In the Group 3 car, you will lose 1 to 2 tenths touching that curb, so stay off that. Keep to the left-hand side of the road and finish your lap. And hopefully we'll be in the 131s for some good qualifying. We'll run through it again in high speed. Just after the 100 board, wait for second. Wide open on second. Pick up 3 before the right-hander. Run 3 out over this curb. Running 4 out as well. So we'll be braking down on the 100-meter board, down into third. Did try second, but it slows the car down too much. Second if you have to, otherwise try and hold third. Straight back on the gas. We're going to have fifth for a little bit down here. Braking before the 50-meter board to 4, 3 on the apex. Really trying to rotate the car here. Use all the curbs on the exit. Once you see fourth, it's on the brakes straight away. 1 to rotate the car. Not 1 rotating the car this time. We're just letting the front bite. 3 for the short straight over the left-hand side, getting us left as far as possible. 1 to rotate the car again. 2 for the exit. Gentle on the throttle. Part throttle for 3. Part throttle in third. Braking after the curb runs out, down into second. A little bit of curb to rotate the car. Gentle on the throttle, up into 3. Not touching this curb on the left-hand side. Keep left and run to the line. And yeah, hopefully this will see us in a 131 type territory. So yeah, there we have it. That actual lap was good enough for the 131 flat, pretty much. So this video is the inboard of that lap. So what we're doing here is having a look at steering inputs for the corners, give you an idea of how much work is going on inside the cockpit. I definitely do suggest that you have a look at your own in-car view if you're not an in-car view driver, just to see what you're doing with the steering wheel, seeing if you're moving it too quick or not quick enough, or just gauge how many adjustments you're making and attempt to smooth out your driving. You really want to see precise inputs. Not that this is an example, but you can see, for example there, we just don't try and catch that, we let the car come back after that slide begins. Probably do something similar here, I would guess too. Yeah, so on that slide the car didn't slide around enough and we had to make another steering input. So those little movements before the actual movement, that is just loading up the car, just getting grip to the outside tyres before you get the turn done. And now, so the last thing we look at is just your general camera view, and this should give us an idea of how much of the road we're using. Always good to just watch your lap in here, just to make sure there's no little bits of road you're missing out on, places that you can put your car. So we're trying to maximize track limits. That will help you raise your apex speeds. Even 1 or 2 kilometers an hour is extremely helpful. The other thing it allows you to do is just check the attitude of the car. If the attitude of the car is jerking around a little bit, you might not notice that from your in-car view or your hot lap or maybe even your chase cam. But Sometimes when you're watching this view, you can see the car perhaps jerk around a little bit or ride a curb too heavy. So always good to look through all your hot lap replays just to see where you should and shouldn't be placing the car. Give yourself an idea. So we're going to add all these views into our videos just so you've got something to compare your own laps with. And yeah, thanks for watching once again. If it was helpful, definitely leave a thumbs up. If you're new around here, chuck us a subscribe. And until next week, I'll see you later.